Chapter 8. Kate swallowed her fear as she hugged Ellen goodbye on the platform. Though she knew she needed to get to Lisbon, a large part of her was afraid to step in the coach. What if the robbers struck again? Or worse yet, what if an entirely different band of robbers struck? "How far is it to Lisbon again?" she asked Thomas as he loaded her now much lighter trunk.
"It's about an hour, miss."
"It will be fine." Ellen placed a reassuring hand on Kate's arm. "You've told Deputy Jennings the story." Kate glanced over at the stony-faced man on horseback near the coach. Evidently, he would be escorting them out of town. "I'm not sure what good it did." Ellen followed Kate's gaze. "I know he seems stoic now, and I never met him before, but I knew Pauline, and she would not have settled for anything other than a great man."
"All set, miss,"
Thomas said from the front of the coach. "I guess that's my cue." Kate sighed softly. She hugged Ellen again before climbing into the coach once more. Thomas shut the door, and Kate waved out the window. When the buildings faded away and the sagebrush took over the view, Kate sat back and thought about her future. She found herself wondering what her husband would be like. Would he be tall with broad shoulders? Would he have a beard? Would he have kind brown eyes? Roughly an hour later, the coach stopped and the door opened.
"Welcome to Lisbon, miss."
Thomas held out his hand for her to step down. Kate glanced around as she took Thomas's hand. Lisbon didn't appear much different from Sage Creek. As the platform was empty, Kate wondered how she was supposed to get in touch with her future husband, Bill Easterly. Before she had time to worry, a wagon pulled up, and a man who appeared about 30 climbed down. He had average brown hair and eyes, which narrowed slightly at her before he pasted a smile on his face.
"You must be Miss Whidby. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm Bill Easterly."
He held out his gloved right hand to take hers, though Kate noticed he grimaced slightly at the movement. Kate wondered if he was not pleased with her appearance. She had tried to smooth the wrinkles in her dress the best she could. With a tight smile, she placed her hand in his and nodded. "Kate Whidby, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Easterly." She had hoped to feel sparks or some sort of attraction with this man, but there was nothing. Did this mean she was in store for a loveless marriage?
"Oh, please call me Bill. After all, we'll be getting married shortly, won't we?"
Something in the way he said the words sent a shiver down Kate's spine. What had she gotten herself into?
"Do you have much luggage?"
he continued. "Just this trunk." She pointed to the large chest Thomas had gotten down for her. "I would have had a little more, but we were robbed on the way here."
"Oh, that's awful. Were you harmed?"
He was saying the right words, but there was still something about him that bothered Kate. "No, thank goodness. They took my jewelry, but I did manage to convince them to let me keep my wedding dress."
"Well, that is all that matters."
He began to move her trunk into his wagon.
"Jewelry wouldn't do you much good on the homestead anyway."
Though he tried to hide it, Kate heard a small grunt as he lifted her trunk, and noticed he wasn't lifting the right side as high as the left. "Did you injure your shoulder?" Kate asked. Bill turned toward her, a hardness in his eyes.
"Why would you ask that?"
Kate flinched at the icy tone of his voice, but she tried to keep her voice from shaking as she responded. "You appear to be having some trouble lifting with your right side." His gaze softened and he smiled.
"Oh yeah, I hurt my shoulder roping some cattle the other day. I reckon it's still a little sore. It's nothing to worry about, though."
Kate nodded. "I'll pray for a speedy recovery for you."
Well, that'd be mighty nice of you. You ready?
He held out his left hand to her this time. Though some intuition told her she should not get in the wagon with him, she had no excuse to offer, and she had made a promise. But she would be vigilant and keep her eyes open until she said, "I do." When the wagon headed out of town, Kate turned to Bill. "Aren't we heading to the preacher?"
I thought you might like to see the farm first and get changed there,
Bill said, flashing her a smile. "Oh, that's very thoughtful of you," Kate said. It would be nice to see the place she would be calling home from now on.
So you said you were robbed.
Bill glanced at her out of the corner of his eye.
Did you get a good look at them?
Kate had no idea why, but her inclination was to withhold the truth from him. "No," she shook her head, hoping her voice wouldn't give her away. "I was too scared to notice much, and they wore masks. I only know that there were 3 of them."
"Ah, well, that's too bad," he said. "That isn't much to give authorities."
"No, it isn't," Kate agreed. "I doubt I shall ever see my things again. Most of it doesn't matter to me, but I do wish they hadn't taken my mother's brooch."
"It was important to you?"
he asked. "It was one of the last things I had of my mother's. She died a few months ago."
"Oh, that's too bad. But such is the nature of life, I suppose," Bill said.
"I suppose." Kate was slightly shocked at his blasé dismissal of her mother's death, and another nugget of unease bloomed within her. She was not the best at directions, but she tried to memorize the way out to Bill's ranch, in case she needed to find her way back to town on her own.
"Well, there it is."
Bill lifted his arm slightly to point. The landscape dipped and allowed Kate to see a small ranch house. A horse was corralled on one side, and on the other side, a small creek ran by the house. Though this part of Texas didn't have many trees, Bill seemed to have several on his land.
"It isn't much, I know, but I'm planning to expand soon."
"I'm sure it's lovely." This time, the smile Bill flashed her was sincere, and Kate almost forgot her misgivings. Almost. He stopped the wagon in front of the house moments later and helped her down.
"Would you mind if we just got your dress from the trunk?" Bill asked. "My shoulder is aching a bit, and I'm not sure I could carry it inside at the moment."
"No, that's fine. I can take out what I need." Kate walked around to the back of the wagon and opened her trunk. Kate moved the other dresses aside until she found her mother's wedding dress at the bottom. It was a cream silk, which had recently become popular when her mother married. And though it had a round skirt rather than the now fashionable bustle and fishtail, Kate had always loved it. The neckline scooped just low enough to show off her collarbones, and tiny rosettes lined the neck and sleeves. Kate removed the dress, careful not to pull too hard, and then grabbed the matching gloves. The shoes didn't match exactly, but as Kate's feet were 2 sizes larger than her mother's had been, she had needed to supply her own shoes. She also grabbed her coat. Though it wasn't cold enough to need it, she still didn't want her groom to see her in her wedding dress before the ceremony. And as they had to drive back to town, that would be nearly impossible unless she were covered up. "All right, I'm ready," she said.
"Wonderful. Follow me and I'll show you your room."
Bill led the way into the house. The front door opened into a small main room. Kate imagined it could look a little homier with a handmade quilt. The kitchen was to the left, which appeared to have an older stove. Perhaps they could purchase some new cookware and utensils. There was a door at the back of the main room, which Kate assumed led to his quarters. Bill opened the door and held it open for her. It held a single bed and a small chest for her to put her clothes in.
"I'll leave you to get changed and I'll freshen up myself,"
he said.
"I rescheduled the wedding for dusk today when I received word your stagecoach was delayed."
Kate nodded and waited for him to shut the door before collapsing on the bed. The quilt covering it was tattered and threadbare. Nothing about this room seemed to show he cared about his future bride, deepening Kate's apprehension. Perhaps her brother had been right. What had she been thinking when she agreed to marry a complete stranger? Kate sent up a prayer for wisdom as she changed out of her traveling dress and into her mother's wedding dress. The dress still fit as perfectly as it had a year ago, when she had snuck into her mother's closet and tried it on. But wearing it now didn't hold the joy she had always believed it would. Was that because she didn't want to be married, or because she might be marrying the wrong man? She sighed and pushed the thought from her mind as she pulled on the gloves and slipped her feet inside her shoes. Then she folded her traveling dress and draped the coat about her shoulders. There was no looking glass in this room, so Kate was unable to check her appearance. But she tucked her hair back into place as best she could and pinched her cheeks to add some color before exiting the room. Bill was sitting in the main room, and he let out a whistle as she entered.
My, aren't you a sight?"
The words should have brought a smile to Kate's face, but instead they caused the hairs on her arms to stand on end. He did not give her the lecherous look that Mr. Tanner had often given her, but his tone gave her the same feeling.
"Time's a-wastin'."
He stood and brushed his hands down his pants.
"Let's head back into town so I can make you my wife."
Kate noticed he was still wearing gloves as he held out his arm to her. Had he injured his hands in his accident as well, or were they deformed in some way? She took his arm and followed him out to the wagon, where he again helped her up before climbing up beside her. The ride back to town was quiet as Kate's mind was on her future, and she had no idea what Bill was thinking. The church was a small clapboard building with a single steeple, which housed a bell. Though probably a bright white at one time, the paint was now faded and peeling, giving the church a dilapidated appearance. Kate wondered if anyone had any pride for this church. Bill helped her down and led her inside. Rows of wooden pews lined either side of the aisle, and a single reed organ sat at the front of the church, under a stained glass window.
"Welcome,"
a voice said from the front.
"I'm Pastor Jacob."
A short man, clad all in black, stepped out from behind the pulpit at the front.
"Pastor, it's Bill Easterly. I've come with Kate Whidby for you to marry us," Bill said.
To Kate, he whispered,
"Pastor Jacob has trouble remembering things from time to time."
"Oh, yes, Bill,"
the preacher said.
"I've been expecting you. Do you have the rings?"
"I do."
Bill patted his pocket.
"Wonderful,"
Pastor Jacob said.
"If you are both ready, please remove your coats and gloves."
Kate removed her coat and gloves and laid them on the pew in the first row. Bill hesitated, but removed his gloves as well.
"Please join hands,"
Pastor Jacob instructed, waving his hands in a motion to get them to step closer together. After another small hesitation, Bill held out his hands to Kate. It was only a momentary flash as he quickly turned them palm up, but it was long enough for her to see the white puckered skin on his left hand. Her eyes widened slightly, and her heart thundered in her ears, but she forced herself to remain calm. What nightmare was she living in? This man wasn't just creepy, he was the robber. There was no way she could go through with this marriage. But how was she going to get away without arousing his suspicion?
"Do you have any guests?"
Pastor Jacob asked, moving from side to side and scanning the church.
"No, it's just us. Can we get on with the ceremony?"
There was a note of impatience in his voice and a stiffness to his posture, as if he was about to bolt.
I suppose, but it will change my wording. It's hard to say dearly beloved when there is no one out there.
Perhaps this was her chance. I'm sorry. Kate brought her hand to her face and fanned it. I'm feeling rather faint. This was my mother's dress, and I think my corset is too tight. Is there a place where I might loosen it?
Are you all right?
Bill asked. I just need a moment. I'm sure I'll be fine. Kate hoped her face and tone did not betray her, and that the knocking of her knees was not as loud as it seemed in her ears. I just need to let the corset out a bit. My mother was a little smaller, I guess.
You can use my study just through that door.
Pastor Jacob pointed to a doorway behind him. Kate couldn't tell if there was an outside door attached to the room Pastor Jacob had pointed to, but she had no other choice. I'll be right back. She smiled sweetly at Bill, hoping she looked convincing. Kate hurried to the room, frowning slightly at the thought of leaving her coat, but there was no way she could grab it. The room held a small desk, and even more importantly, it had another doorway. As Kate put her hand on the handle, she prayed it led outside. The light had receded while she'd been inside and the air had cooled, but Kate didn't care. There was enough light from the moon to illuminate her path. She took off running to the right. As she rounded the church, she saw a horse tied up to a nearby post. While Kate didn't believe in stealing, this might be her only chance to escape. With one swift motion, she untied the reins and swung herself up onto the saddle. The wedding dress groaned in agony as it stretched in unexpected ways, and Kate found her airways slightly constricted. The corset wasn't too tight, but it was a tighter garment than she was used to riding in. She dug her heels into the horse, urging it into a run out of town. She was almost past the last building when the shot rang out. It wasn't near her, but she could hear yelling behind her. Kate hunkered as low as she could on the horse and rode on, praying Bill would not find a horse or get his own unhooked from the wagon in time.